Yeah.
And that's
turned
where I
into
met him.
WWE, turned back into Stinger.
How do you get CPK to turn into WWE?
So, I mean, I've told this story a couple times as far as I was a huge. I mean, people think I'm a big wrestling fan now, and I'm a casual fan now. I was a hardcore fan. And you know, even though he'd argue with me, I
You've
would
exhausted Riley.
Yeah, thank
No,
you.
sorry, that wasn't the story.
I could destroy Satin or anybody when it came to wrestling knowledge or anything back then.
And I remember
2000?
this.
From I would say 86 to like 93, it was untouchable as far as wrestling knowledge, and then from like 96 until like 2001.
Pretty good. Oh, no, nothing.
Everything.
Oh,
You know,
No,
like,
I
I was, yeah.
I have a distinct memory coming over at CPK where
Yeah.
we're all held around and you're talking wrestling, and I just went,
Right.
turned around and walked the other way.
It was because I knew. I mean, it was my sport. I mean, I knew
Yeah.
it. I knew it. The history of it, the back and forth. There was again trivia. Like, there's no one that could have touched me back then. I just knew it all.
So you're at CPK. You have all this knowledge.
Yeah. So and strangely enough, my roommate at the time, his girlfriend was working for the WWE in the accounting place, and it was WrestleMania 17 in Houston, actually.
Was it Yada?
No. This is way before Yada. This is my friend Jackie, who actually lives out here now. But she was with my friend Jay at the time, and Jay says to me, "Look, Jackie's going to be in Houston at WrestleMania, and she says if we drive there, she'll put us up at the hotel and get us tickets, and we can go."
One of you guys fix that.
What is it? Me?
I don't know. One of you guys.
Well, it's got to be me. The stupid thing's open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
My computer's closed.
Yeah. So it's me.
I didn't want to call him out, but by one of you guys, I
should.
mean
Me,
Kristian.
Yeah.
It's done it 6
The
times.
only reason I have my laptop open is because I have my list.
Wouldn't it be great if Cody's actually doing that in the booth just to
Just to do it. It's true. Well, now we know it's him. But anyway, so Jackie was working in Houston. And so you could put us up at this great hotel for WrestleMania, get the whole experience, pay for nothing, but we have to drive to Houston, which is like a 17-hour drive from LA. You know,
You didn't want to fly?
at the time, didn't have the money for it. You know, it's like it was
Probably cheaper than driving there with all the gas. No?
maybe. I mean,
You didn't think about it. You just got in the car.
Didn't think about it. Just got in the car and drove. And so we get there. We're hanging out. We did the whole WrestleMania experience. And then I remember, and again, I've told this story a million times, but it's for those that didn't know, we go downstairs to go to the bar because Jackie's like, hey, they're all downstairs at the bar if you want to go and hang out. And so all these wrestlers were down there, and they're all talking to the fans. And Paul Heyman, who's like he's a big manager, big creative influence guy.
I know who Heyman is.
So if you're a wrestling fan, you don't, right? So yeah, if you're a wrestling fan, you know who Paul Heyman is. So Paul Heyman is at the bar, and he's by himself. So I walked up to him and I said to him, Mr. Heyman, nice to meet you. My name's Kristian, and I just wanted to ask you a question. I know that people probably come up to you all the time and ask you how to be a wrestler. How do you become a writer? And he goes, write a letter. I said, well, I did that. He goes, write another one.
A letter to
the creative team or
Dear
to whoever
WWE.
to write it's like find a way to so write somebody. Yeah, nice, Cody. Cody was scrambling looking for that sound effect.
There's so many different ones.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
He was just hoping that one worked.
Yeah, that was it. He got it. But yeah.
So great.
But
You've got mail.
Yeah, but it was to write a letter to to whoever it was. But there was a great advice. The advice in itself of the write another one.
Yeah.
It's the fact that
It's more like a mindset.
Yes, that's the thing is like don't stop, figure it out.
Yes, because so many people could write a letter and go, okay, I did it. And then they never wrote me back.
Well,
That's
this
it.
is the thing.
Keep going.
This was the thing that I've been thinking about recently. I've been thinking about this a lot. It's that, am I at a place right now to where, whether it's Schmodown or whatever, that I'm satisfied with? And the answer is 100% no. Not even close. And it's like, you're out, and we know people like this, and we're guilty of it ourselves, that people will say, oh, man, opportunities aren't coming my way. It's not working out for me. What am I doing? Like, oh, man, this is like, this guy's got something going on. How come that should be me, right? That shit never works. What it is that it is all on you. It is all on you. Like, no matter, like, you are not doing something. Like, you didn't have a conversation with someone. You didn't make a phone call. You didn't do. There's always something more you can do. I've done everything. No, you haven't. Like, I certainly haven't. I don't know what that is yet. I got to figure out what that road is. I got to figure out who that phone call is or who that email is. But I clearly haven't done everything. And then that's what I think write another one means.
Yeah.
It's like, don't stop, figure it out. And so we go
You
to.
think you don't get that advice? You don't work for the WWE.
I agree. Yeah. No.
You think that?
100%. Yeah. And it's funny. I've never. And the thing with Paul, again, people have been asking me to tell more of these stories when I was there, and even though I wasn't there very long, I was only there for about a month or so, but maybe 2. But that advice absolutely did that. I went to WrestleMania. It was a great WrestleMania. Some people think it was the greatest WrestleMania of all time, right? But inside of my head, I'm watching all these matches, but I'm thinking, all right, what do I got to do when I get back? And so at the time, this is 2001, right? So you got to. It's not as easy as emails and phone calls back then, you know. So I've got.
That's what makes you stand out more, because now it's so easy for anybody to send a text or an email that everybody does it. At that time, because it was that extra step, if you could take that step to do it, you were going to be the one who.
Right, and that's what I did. So what I did was I wrote. What I did, because of my connection to Jackie, who then got me all of the names that I needed and addresses to send to the company. I sent, I don't know, maybe 15 to 20 letters.
Do you remember what it said?
It was just about why I believed that I would be a right fit for the team and what I could do.
Did you say to whom it may concern?
No, I got each person's name and I wrote it to that person.
Okay, so you said, like, Dear Bob, my name is Kristian Harloff.
Here's why I should be working for the team. So basically, after sending 15 to 20, it became like that Shawshank Redemption thing of like, Stephanie McMahon says, please stop sending letters, but would like you to submit some creative samples. So write some samples, and if they're good, we'll be in touch. So at the time, this whole angle with they had just bought WCW, so there was no Invasion yet, and so I wrote an Invasion storyline, and not that they took it, they were planning on it anyway, but people had known that they were going to plan on doing that eventually, so I started writing all these storylines, and submitted it, and it wasn't very long to where they said, Stephanie likes your stuff and they want to fly you out to have a meeting, so I did.
Where was
fly
this?
You out to Florida?
No, they're based in Stamford, Connecticut.
Okay.
So I went there and I met with, it was, I'm trying to remember everybody in the meeting, but it was this guy Ed, the main guy who's Brian Gerwitz. It was Ed, Brian Gerwitz, Michael P.S. Hayes, Bruce Pritchard, Paul Heyman, Stephanie McMahon.
Did you tell Heyman at that time?
I told Paul Heyman that was the conversation, and then Paul really got me the job twice, and this is why I really want to have a conversation with him about it too. And I wish, and maybe enough people tweet him out and say that I'm telling him a story about him, he'll actually finally hear this. But he got me the job twice because I did, as I was going in, I read a lot of interviews and stuff, things that Triple H had said too, and there was this particular thing that Paul had said, and Paul asked me. And thank God I read this because Paul asked me, he goes, he did this whole interview with me, and then Paul looks, he goes, let me ask you a question. Who you tell you're not going to get this job right now? And that, thank you, but no thank you. And you walk out that door. What do you do? And I said, I go home, and I think about it, and then I try again next week, or in a month, or 2 months. And then they had a conversation about it, and he told me, he's like, that got you the job.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So what did you read of his? Something like along those lines of try again?
It was a conversation. I think that it wasn't him. I think it was actually Triple H that said something along those lines of like, that's what we look for. We look for someone that when they say, what are you going to do? You don't say I'm going to stop. You say I'm going to stop today because the door's shut today, but tomorrow it could be open again. And that just kept with that philosophy to this day of doing that. But the other thing that Paul Heyman had saw. This is really funny because he goes, come here, I want to try. He's like, I see something in you. He goes, I want to do something, and I'm like, what's that? And he didn't, and I don't even know if he knew I was doing stand up at the time. I don't know, I have no idea. But he goes, I feel like you'd be a good broadcaster. I feel like you'd be good on the desk.
There you go.
And I was like, really? He's like, yeah. And I'm coming from him. He's the guy who started ECW. He's like, nah. He's like, I'm in that interview talking. He's like, I usually trust my instinct on this thing. He's like, I feel like you'd be good. He's like, put on the headphones. I'm going to give you a match. And he just throws me in this thing. He's like, I want you to call this match. I ate shit. I mean, I ate total shit. I wasn't ready for it at all.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, you fast forward to today when I'm doing Schmodown stuff. That's what I wish Like when you could look at like the Merle and Roca match, or like things like that, or your match against Roca, or any of those big matches where that's what I wish I would have shown. But hindsight, again, that's my point though, is you always can do something. I fucked that up that day. Who knows if I crush it? Maybe that's what I'm doing today. But again, maybe I wasn't supposed to do that. Maybe I was supposed to fuck it up.
And that was a learning moment right there. I'm sure.
But again, Paul Heyman is responsible for all three of those, and he protected me for as long as he could while I was there. But it's a very
Wait, so
kind
what
of
happened?
thing.
You were only there for a month or 2 months?
About 2 months. So
and then you were let go?
Yeah, and this is what there's again two things inside of that. I knew it. I knew that. Well, I knew it, but didn't think it could happen to me. So my friend Trevor Eggleston, who was married to Meghan Markle, the one I told you about, right? So he put together all these deals for me. He helped me get an internship. I met him through doing stand-up. But when I had gotten this deal kind of in the works, because he's a manager and producer, right? His client was actually John Singleton, which was I just saw him post the other day. I was bummed about it in general, and I felt horrible for him and Craig Brewer, who very close to John. But anyway. I called Trevor and I said, Trevor, I'd love for you to negotiate this deal for me. And so Trevor put together the whole deal for me for the WWE. But he told me he knew some woman that had just done the same thing I did, and what was being heard was that basically WWE would kind of recycle television and just people from LA. They would have their tight crew, then they'd bring a couple of outside writers, bounce in, get some ideas, get as many ideas from them as they could. And then because I think there was some kind of rule, I know there was, after a certain amount of time, they had to put you on salary as opposed to just freelance.
Oh,
so you moved yourself there. You were paying you.
Well, they paid for me to come out. They paid for me to stay there for the time that I was there, and all that.
But you left your LA place. You moved all your stuff there.
I had a huge bag of shit. Again, to do it over again, I had a huge bag of shit that I was carrying around. My first place I went to was Chicago. I forget which arena it was, but I had this huge bag that I was carrying around through the entire arena. It was a duffel bag of stuff.
Did you still have home base in LA,
yeah,
or you thought you had moved to Connecticut?
No, well, my friend Jay, who I was living with at the time, I told him because I had left my dog there for the first round, and then I took him with me, and because my mother's house in Queens at the time was half an hour, 40 minutes away from Stamford, so he was staying with her. So I would go and I stayed with my mom, and I was just kind of living out of hotels when I was there, and the deal was I'm going to stay there. I'm going to go in my mindset. I'm going to crush this. I'm going to do what I have to do, and then I'll get the long-term deal, and then I'll just get my own apartment. I'm 23 years old or whatever it was at the time. It just didn't work out that way because, and I've told the story again where I blew it in the first meeting, throw my hand up twice. I told you that story, right?
Yeah.
So twice inside. That's another Jonathan Coachman's the other guy I want to talk to. Because Jonathan Coachman was the one who's just like, ooh, no, you don't do that. You got a long way to come back from, kid.
Oh,
and I was just, He gave me the long way to come back from. Bruce Pritchard was just like, he pretty much said to me, like, that doesn't matter. You're not going to be here in 2 weeks, and I wasn't. So it was like he was
cutthroat, man.
It was cutthroat, man.
Yeah.
It was, and again, I wasn't.
So what ultimately happened? So they come and say to you, "Sorry, it's not a good fit."
I went to what was crazy about it is that Vince. Because I spent a lot of time with Vince McMahon. Vince and Stephanie and all complimented my writing every day. Like really loving what you're doing, really loving like this was really good. This was perfect. This worked really well. You understood the characters here. I just didn't vibe. It's a very kind of cliquey crew, and I was trying to do I think too much at the time. Young kid trying to show myself like, hey, this is what I should do, what I could do at the time. I told you I ran those boxing leagues. And I told people about that, thinking that that would help, and it hurt because they're like, oh, "Do you care more about the boxing league or do you care about this?" And I'm like, "No, I'm trying to show you that I can promote, I can do these things." And they're like, "Just do the job in front of you." That's what I should have done. I should
shut up, kid, and do
shut
your
up,
work.
kid, do the job in front of you, show what I can do, and when the time is right, and I've learned that through experience. Is that you do what's in front of you, and then when it's time, then you make the next move. And it's something I had to learn when I was there, but it was an interesting experience.
Did you cry when they let you go?
I did actually.
In front of them?
No. I was on the way home to my. I said to Stephanie, "Thank you very much." Because Stephanie was the one who let me know, and I saw it coming. I knew it was coming, but because I just felt like an outsider. Just felt like an outsider. I never really, and for me, you know me, I usually form connections pretty fast, and it was not easy to get in very well. I mean, I got along with a lot of the wrestlers, but that wasn't the crew I needed to get in with. Like Kurt Angle was the best. Kurt Angle was the coolest. But I had to, I told you, I've told the story about Booker T many times, to where I sat down and he scared the hell out of me the first time I met him. Yeah. But did I tell you that story?
I don't think so.
The short of it, and I again apologize to people who have heard the story many times, but it was my first day there, and I walked in. It was a bar after the show, and all the wrestlers were there, and they let me in obviously because I was working there, and I walk in, and Arn Anderson is sitting there. I forget who else, a couple other workers, and Booker T. And so the chair was up. I'm like, I'm just going to go sit down next to these guys. And I was like, hey, Booker, do you mind if I sit down? He goes, yeah, don't sit down. And I'm like, I thought he's fucking around with me. I'm like, pfft. And I sit down, and he looks at me and goes, I said no. And I'm like, oh, shit. And then Arn Anderson walks up and says, no, Booker, this is the new boy. This is the writer. He's cool. And then Booker says, man, I'm just kidding with you. And I was like, holy shit.
You think he was kidding with you or no?
I have no idea. But I dropped a turd in my pants. And then and then as I'm sitting there, like then these shot glasses come flying over, right? And it was I don't know how much of an impact this guy will have on you, but it was if you know, I mean, Chris Benoit, who was the guy, he was the guy who killed his wife and himself and his kid.
Jesus.
But
God.
And I've said it many times. He was the nicest guy in the world to me. Again, I didn't live with him, and I didn't deal with all this other stuff. But that was my first experience being there. And he was injured at the time. He had this thing around his neck, and
what he sent you and Booker 2 shots.
It was everybody at the table. He fired us. He said welcome to the team, and he was like, the wrestlers were all very nice to me. I smoked a joint.
Because they hope that you write them something good.
That's exactly right. Like I had told Stacy Keebler, and I we hit it off very well. I was so much so. And this is again the stupid ass kid in me. My friend was getting married. My friend John, and I had asked her.
You asked Stacy Keebler
to go to the wedding. She was going to go. And Stephanie McMahon was like, you can't have these relationships with wrestlers, even though she was married. But she's allowed to. She's the boss. You can't do that. And I was like, all right. So I did everything wrong. I did everything. That's the thing.
What was going on with you and Stacy Keebler?
Oh, nothing. It was just to where we just got along very well. There's nothing had to where it was just like, it was one of those things to where we just got along. We just we would be behind the scenes kind of bullshitting, and we were the same age. She's or maybe I was even a couple years older, but anyway, it was a bizarre. I don't even really go down that path anymore when I think about it, because it's just like
whirlwind, man.
It was whirlwind. I remember being in a car with, and this is the other thing. The other thing was me, X-Pac, and Steven Regal, and we're going to house shows. For people who don't know what house shows are, it's Monday Night Raw and SmackDown are like the TV shows that they do. And the house shows are just like not televised shows that they just put on for people while they're there. And we drove to this house show, and it was me, Steven Regal, and X-Pac. We smoked a joint on the way there. And X-Pac was like, I knew I liked you. And we smoked a joint, but I wasn't working the event. I was just there, but I was still, again, another fuck up, 23 years old, walking around stoned at this event, brand new to the company, and people are like, how you doing? It's like, that kid's stoned.
Yeah.
So I did everything wrong. I did everything wrong.
So you lose the job, and then are you thinking like, fuck, what do I?
No, I knew I was going back to stand up.
But did you know you were going back to L.A.?
Yeah. I knew I was going back to LA.
Yeah, he was back at CPK. I blinked. You were gone, and I was so proud of you. I was like, holy shit. Because I was jealous.
People
like,
thought I was
he's
lying.
doing what he wants to do. And then I blinked.
It was literally
because
a month.
life sucks when you're waiting tables, and you were back.
It was like almost 2 months. And people thought I was lying, because I was gone for so short. They're like, where'd you go, in like Europe or something, and you just come back?
Right.
And I was like, no, I was like legit. I was there.
Because there was no social media at the time. It's not like you were posting on Facebook.
There was no Twitter. There was none of that stuff. And there was no. And I was. Later on, I showed the clip of. You can still see it. It's the clip of me and The Rock.
Yeah.
Which and then that's how people. Were like, oh, okay. I guess you did work there. But
if that clip doesn't exist, then we still don't have proof.
And it's true. But the thing was.